So we have a great speaker.
Yeah, Nanea Reeves we have brought to you. She is a native of Honolulu, and in the Hawaiian language, her name means of absorbing interest, fascinating, and amused.
That's true.
We confirm that.
I don't know if she's amused, but she is fascinating.
She looked amused.
Yeah.
She is current president and chief operating officer for textPlus, and is one of the leading female tech executives today, serving in key roles at Electronic Arts, Jamdat, and Machinima.
And she is a big-time gamer.
And she's legit. She's a gamer.
Yes.
We confirm that as well. So please welcome Nanea Reeves for taking the no out of innovation.
Taking the no out of innovation.
Somebody said, "Are you an atheist?" I said, "Oh God, yes, I am." Anyway, I'm going to talk to you this morning about how to bring more of the concepts of innovation. And I hope it's not exclusive. I do focus a lot of it on business and how to apply it to our work. But really, when you think about it, to innovate is really just to have a vision of the future and you paint it on the canvas of the present. And the future isn't somewhere out there in the distance or in heaven. We bring it to life with the ideas we nurture today and the actions that we take right now. And the first action that we must take to realize a good future for ourselves and for our work and our world is to take that no out of innovation. Because whether we admit it or not, we're hardwired to resist change. We reject things that threaten our belief systems or take us out of our comfort zone. And we do this in our work and we do it in our lives. So I'll give you a slightly embarrassing example. When I was 23 and I met my husband, who used to date Janet Kirker actually before me, and he has good taste in women. But I almost didn't go out with him because he wasn't my type. Now, at age 23, my type was moody and broody and emotionally unavailable. As you know, so thank God I actually had or thank goodness, I had a sane friend who encouraged me to go out with Vic because she said he was nice. And we were kind of punk rock back then, and nice sounded to me like another name for the Grim Reaper. But, you know, I opened up my mind to that concept. We went out, and I got to find out that Vic was really nice. But I almost said no to an amazing man, and consequently a wonderful journey we've had together over 23 years. Now, there's a Warden study that looked at this propensity that we have to reject change and new ideas, and what they found was that especially at times of uncertainty, during times of uncertainty, we default to what's more practical and familiar to us, and we dismiss creative and new thought. And the irony is that that is usually when we need to embrace change and new ideas the most, when things are uncertain. And I'm sure that many of us in this room have worked in company cultures or work environments where they can turn the rejection of new ideas into an art form because they threaten what's been previously institutionalized. We will protect what's familiar to us even when it's outdated. So when you look at the music industry's response to digital distribution, there's really no reason why they couldn't have created or invented iTunes. But their reaction to a couple of 19-year-olds, and I used to be the boss of one of them at EA, we bought his company, so I know them well, their response was to lawyer up rather than evolve their business concepts. And, you know, when you think about it, no matter how evolved we think we are, there is a bit of that history hoarder in all of us. Who among us doesn't know someone who is completely defined by a success of the past and they haven't evolved into a new arena? And I think even more heartbreaking is when you know someone who's frozen in a past failure and they think that they blew it and they'll never get a second chance. And I've found that our backgrounds and the history of our people, I come from a culture where being smart was looked down upon, that you were trying to be better than my people. And I started my journey with a very challenging childhood. I had a drug addict mother who loaded way too much responsibility on me as a young child, and there was, as a result, one bad experience after another. And so being a victim really became the picture that I was painting on the canvas of my life. And it was dark, and it got very ugly and violent, and I found myself with no hope for the future. But the turning point for me was when I realized that I can reprime that canvas at any given moment and paint a new picture. I don't get a new canvas. This is it. But I can change the picture at any time. And all of those earlier experiences, it's not my life today, but they do add a hell of a lot of depth and texture to the painting that I'm creating now. So, you know, the problem is it takes guts. It takes guts and persistence to put your idea out there. There's David Sarnoff, who I find him very inspiring. I don't believe in his politics. He was very sort of pro-McCarthy at the time. But in his early career, he was a low-level employee at Marconi Telegraph and Wireless. And he demonstrated the concept of broadcasting music in 1915. But his boss, the head of the company, kept dismissing the idea over and over for a radio music box. He said it wasn't commercially viable. His exact words actually were, who would pay for a message sent out to no one in particular, right? We have Twitter, we have messages that blow up now on Snapchat, you know, so. But on a much smaller scale, I've heard that same kind of sentiment at almost every cool startup I've worked at. In the 90s, when I was working in e-commerce, I would often hear, why would no one's gonna buy something they can't try on or hold in their hands. And then in 2000, when I was a founder of a mobile games company that became very successful, we all heard, no, who would want to play a game on their cell phone? And we were, right? And we were talking about Machinima, a YouTube network that I worked at, and I still hear, why would anyone want to watch a video of someone else playing a video game? Well, just on our network alone, there are 100 million people a month who do just that, and even more beyond. And so it's you know, interesting to look at all these ways that we say no to innovation. We actually lie a lot to ourselves about it. We think that it takes someone special to be innovative, and yet you'd be amazed at how many inventions didn't come from a Leonardo da Vinci or a Steve Jobs. Penicillin, the rubber tire, photography, the pacemaker, these were all accidental discoveries, and they were very significant. They changed our world as we know it. And not all inventors are men. Yes, women have invented the chocolate chip cookie, but women also invented Kevlar, you know, that you use in body armor, the windshield wiper, the circular saw, and the compiler that takes one computer language and translates it into another. You wouldn't be able to do software development without that. So how do we create an environment that will foster innovation? And it really just comes down to find a way to be comfortable with uncertainty. And for me, I found the first step was to be curious. The only reason, because I get asked it a lot, how have you ended up at so many companies consistently that have been sort of like the next big thing? And it's really, I'm just curious. I want to find out the answer to that question. Who would play a game on their cell phone? I didn't dismiss it. I actually wanted to know what it was about. It's not anything like arrogant or special about it. It just seemed interesting to me. And it's that curiosity that's really the first step that gets you on the path to innovation. And the second step that I found to be very useful is to just get the data. All I need to do is commit to get a test done to prove out whether it's worth pursuing or not. And that smaller level of commitment just takes all the fear out of taking that first action. And data removes all of that uncertainty that triggers that organ rejection to new ideas. But it also helps if you want to get funding. It helps the venture capitalists want to give you more money, you know, that you're just going to prove out the point. And so the third thing that helps me to driving new ideas to completion is to iterate and course correct along the way. You just take small steps to realize your idea and then you respond to feedback in real time. And I think this is something that a lot of women do. They wait for like complete perfection and full 100% confidence before they take action. Guys know they just gotta like put themselves out there. The confidence comes on the other side of the action. So it's just a pro tip there for you. Just do it anyway. And, you know, oftentimes you'll find this process of iteration can lead you to a better idea. Botox was originally created to fix crossed eyes. And Viagra was developed to help angina patients. So clearly once they start testing those products, they went, oh, look at that. We can make a lot more money off of that. And so what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, you try these new things, they don't work out, they may even fail, and so what? You'll develop that muscle. That's why I like to play video games. The only way you can win is to lose over and over so you can accumulate the information to learn how to win. And so, you know, the other thing too is I just don't talk about the failures that much, but I have learned a lot from them. And there are many forms of innovation, and even if we don't invent new technologies or new products or start new companies, we can all strive to master that most important innovation of all, which is to create and evolve a wonderful, full, rich lives for ourselves at any point in your life. For me, my journey, the fact that I'm standing here talking to you today, being who I am today, was not the journey I was supposed to have. And I took a different path by choice. And when I hit 40, I became terribly depressed because, you know, my identity as a woman had completely changed overnight. I no longer felt viable. I was horribly embarrassed by it. I didn't talk to anyone about it because I thought I should be more evolved than this, and I wasn't. And that depression lasted about a year and a half, probably because I didn't speak to anyone about it. But it was a real thing. And then one day I was reading a financial magazine sitting on the couch, reading I think Forbes or something, because that's what you do when you're depressed. And but it had some census data in it, and it said that on average, your peak earning years during your career will be 45 to 54. Now, if you're a supermodel, musician, actress, athlete, you get a different range. But for the most people, and please, if you're not in that age range or past it, don't get depressed. This isn't the average. You will earn the most amount of money during those years. And in an instant, with that data in hand, my whole attitude changed. At 41 years old, I was sitting there going, I need to get busy and be more strategic about how I tee that up. And because I had this new concept, I realized it didn't matter what I looked like if I were rich and powerful, you know? I could see that Warren Buffett could get into any nightclub he wants to. But really, you know what, I got very excited about maximizing that opportunity and working as hard as I could for the next 10 to 15 years. And what I realized, I think the insight for me was that I was in the young part of the rest of my life. And I was never going to have as much energy as I had in that moment to create a great career for myself. But, you know, I started to think a lot about being power-hungry diva bitch is not the best goal to have in life. And so I started to bring this concept of compassionate leadership into my work, and it's really done me, it's made work in a completely different stratosphere. It's a different talk, you know, so it's that concept of really seeing myself even beyond that. You know, after rich and powerful, I would take what I accumulate and segue into philanthropic yet eccentric. You know, that I could see this 70-year-old version of myself kind of in these cool Japanese designer deconstructed clothes, you know, gray hair with blue tips. And so I went, okay, you know, I like that lady a lot. And I went to go visit my grandmother. She recently passed away, and I miss her a lot. But I went to go visit her when she was in her mid-80s, and she was reading a lot and kind of enjoying living a slower life. And I thought, wow, that seems actually like I could do that. I could slow down and read the classics and build a glorious garden and take a lot of naps and visit with people I like and then just fade away and feel good about what I did. And that concept for my future, it made me excited about the second half of my life, rather than to look at it with complete terror. And I'm sure I'll course correct along the way, and based on the feedback I'm getting, and then the fragile nature of life itself may intervene and change my plans. I may never get a chance to build that garden. But what happened was letting go of an old concept of myself allowed me to have the space to create a new vision that gave me hope, and it allowed me to value who I was today and to see what I had to offer in the future. And that's really the best gift and the best legacy that we can give to those around us, the real impact, especially the younger people who are watching us in our lives, to be examples of a life well lived, connected and engaged and grateful and humble in our successes, and to find courage in the face of opposition. And most importantly, to stand tall with our broken hearts and our failures, knowing that they don't define us, but they motivate us to reinvent ourselves at any stage in our life. And there are great men and women who have transcended what we think the limits are of human capabilities. And thankfully, they grace our planet now and again to remind us of our potential. And will we all do something that will change the world? Maybe not. But I think that all of us can make that commitment to find out at any stage what we are capable of, and to realize a new vision, whether it's in your work or your artistic passions or just the way you interact with your day-to-day life, to be curious, to stop saying no to new ideas, to test your ideas and get in and out of them quickly as needed, and to start painting a wonderful new vision of the future on the canvas of your life today. So thank you very much.
And that is why you come to Sunday Assembly. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.